shocking discovery and shocking revelation. To be honest, I thought white people were working class until I came across this video and I saw what a lot of people were talking about it. And I saw how some white people are actually accepting the fact that they were never working class. The black people are supposed to be taking glory of every single thing that they've been enjoying. And I was like, don't tell me. Anyways, I brought the videos to you guys and I'm going to go out to roll out the clips I have for you. Credit belongs to original creators of every clips we insert in our today's episode. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't subscribed, subscribe, like, comment, and share. Thank you for my returning subscribers for always coming to support me. I do not take you guys for granted. You guys are the best, right? Anyways, this video is for educational purpose, so feel free to drop me your opinion in the comment section. What you think, if what they are saying is true, if what they are saying is not true, let me know in the comment section. Let's go ahead, let me roll out the clips, and then I'll be back with commentaries. Let's enjoy.
White people were never working class. They weren't working class. They were managing it. From the very beginning, the category of white worker functioned less as a material condition and more as a racialized buffer, a cushion between the ruling elite and the global exploited. They weren't crushed by empire. They were employed by it. When the transatlantic slave trade mechanized profit across continents, poor white settlers weren't resisting the machine. They were greasing its gears. They weren't chained in hulls. They were loading the ships. They weren't sold on auction blocks. They were monitoring them. And when black slaves fled into forests, swamps, or mountains, the white working class didn't show solidarity. They formed slave patrols. You want to call that working class? When European peasants were starving under feudalism, it was real. But the second they touched stolen soil, they were given a deal. Abandon your class for your color. Trade your struggle for a new identity, whiteness, and you will be spared. Not rewarded, not elevated, but spared. Land grants, militia posts, homesteads, all on indigenous blood. Meanwhile, black freedmen were banned from trades. Chinese laborers were lynched for daring to open laundries. Mexican farm workers had their wages stolen and their bones broken. The Irish weren't forced into whiteness. They petitioned for it, weaponized it, and abandoned their own hunger the moment they could starve someone else in their place. The American labor unions, explicitly white only for most of their foundational years, they wrote anti-black, anti-Asian, anti-immigrant language into their charters. These weren't errors. These were structural commitments to maintaining a white wage floor by suppressing everyone else's access to one. When mines collapsed and textile mills caught fire, the world mourned. But what didn't get printed was who got excluded from the unions, who got locked out of factories, who got deported after organizing. And when Global South workers rise up today, Bangladeshi garment workers, Congolese cobalt miners, Haitian farmers resisting monocrops, where is the white working class? Not on the picket line, not in the streets. They're in YouTube comment sections defending capitalism. Terrified, someone might call them privileged. They were never working class. They were class tourists, showing up when the job paid well, leaving when it required solidarity. Even the phrase white working class is a misdirection. It suggests that white people suffered the same, bled the same, died the same as the global underclass, when in fact they were always positioned to be the lowest rung of the overseers. Not the oppressed. They lived on top of red-lined neighborhoods. They collected union pensions while black veterans were denied mortgages. They inherited homes bought with subsidies that non-white families were barred from. They built their small businesses while ICE raided the competition. They called it hard work, but the system was always rigged in their favor at every step. The whiteness was the job. The struggle was the costume. The class was an illusion. And now they dare to talk about being left behind. They were never on the bottom. They were on the platform, stepping over bodies they helped bury. White people were never working class. They were the middle managers of empire, paid just enough to keep kicking downward. Cope.
It's like there's nothing for the working class white male, even housing. You know, you can't access social housing because you're down on the list. Everybody sort of got to go the private route, which is extortionist. But I've seen so many other people whose lives have deteriorated. I haven't seen any significant changes where I live. Any improvements, it seems to be rolling on just the same. I understand that it takes time to implement these things, but they came with a plan, a rhetoric, a manifesto of what they were going to do. And to be perfectly honest, I haven't seen any fallout, any improvements. It's still the same problems around here, still the same homelessness, this drug addiction, the same social poverty. I mean, if we come together, you know, maybe with someone who pops up in a political party who's got a bit of charisma and understands the problems beyond the divide and conquer.
Do you feel like your life's improved since the Tories were kicked out?
My life's been pretty much the same. It hasn't been any different. It may be different once this PIP review's done, but at the moment it's no different.
No better, no worse.
No better, no worse. Just the same. But I've seen so many other people whose lives have deteriorated and got worse. You know, I mean.
So this comment, the reason I said this comment begs desperately for a video reply is because the outcome of using what some people have described as the underclass, right, and certainly a certain race of the underclass, white underclass people, as the poster children for bigotry and xenophobia, is that we get this, and what it does is it erases the actual history of white working / underclass people in the UK. If you were to look into it, you would find that the under / working class, I'm going to keep doing that, in this country actually represents the most multicultural, most diverse, most inclusive sect of this society. It has much richer cultural ingredients in it than any other class in the country. White working class people and the white underclass have needed community because they haven't had, you know, the financial backing, the social mobility, the access and so on, so they've relied on each other. And that's meant, it hasn't mattered what faith they were, what race they were, what any of their background was. What can you do for me? What can I do for you? How can we help each other? And I'm summarizing this quite heavily, but genuinely, the white / underclass, white working / underclass members of the UK have been historically the most inclusive parts of society, without question. So it's unfortunate that you would say this, because honestly, the truth of the matter is, no, I will defend them. I will defend them, because we're looking again at a very loud minority here. And we can certainly still point out, you know, underclass racists, underclass racism, we could point that out, but we're not going to ignore and shut down the magnitude at which white working / underclass people in the UK have allowed so many varieties of people into their community. And it may not actually be a matter of we don't have, therefore, it might simply be a case of they just are just like, I don't really care who you are, where you're from. Are you a good person? Fantastic. Let us be in commune together. That's it. But comments like this erase that history deeply. And it's sad. And this is why I make videos like I do.
So I just come back off of doing the segment on GB News about white working class boys being demonised by the establishment, the woke liberal elite and the mainstream media, which they have been for decades now. They're all crying out since this Adolescence Netflix series came out the other day, all of a sudden massively worried about what's going on with working class white boys in Britain, when actually they're the ones who have created this crisis for going back since before I was born, frankly. And I've taken this so personally because I was one of those working class white boys. There were times when my mum, a single mum, grew up in a poor part of London, couldn't even afford to buy food in her food shop. We have to leave it on the side at the till or put it back on the shelves. We had to sleep on mattresses on the floor. We had to graft to get out. I've had to graft to get out of the poverty cycle that we were stuck in. And most working class white boys are stuck in Britain because they've been completely forgotten about, completely demonised. There's no DEI programmes for them. There's no help from the government. In fact, it's just pure classism. Even the major political parties, the Labour Party, which was meant to represent those poor boys, those poor working class men, it's just completely forgotten about them. Doesn't care about them anymore. In fact, it sneers at them. And this is what we've been having to put up with for so long. And for, I'm lucky. I was one of the lucky ones. I grafted my way out of it. But even though there are many lads who do similar things that I do, working their arse off to try and graft out of that poverty cycle, that can't do it. They just can't, because they get blocked. They might apply for a job. They might have worked really hard, apply for a really big job, and then they find out, oh, sorry, you lost out because of the DEI candidate box needed ticking. I mean, it's absolutely abysmal what we've done to British people, British working class lads. And now people like the Prime Minister are standing up in Parliament, basically comparing them. Well, not him, but there's these comparisons being thrown around in the media that they're misogynistic terrorists now. They're running around with knives. That's not the reality, is it? They're not the ones committing mass knife attacks on on other people. That's not reality. That's not what's been portrayed in the news, is it? That is a false narrative. That is stigmatization. That is treating these young lads like they're some kind of, terrorists in waiting, when actually all they've ever really needed is a little bit of help and a little bit of listening to by the government and the powers that be. But of course, they're only doing it now because there's a Netflix drama about it, aren't they? It makes me so sick. These people are so sinister. I really wish British people would wake up and stop electing these people and stop listening to these mainstream media outlets that don't care about their kids, don't care about them. They just want to feed you the same narrative. It's your fault. You're the reason why this exists. Vote for us and we'll change it. They never change anything. They never have changed anything. I really hope other young working class lads can wake up and see that, because you do need to get politically active. You do need to get involved if you want to change the system. You can't just sit on the sidelines and just hope your life's going to get better, that some miracle's going to happen, because it's not. You have to be involved in it. You can't let other people try and dictate your life to you, because that's exactly what they've taught you at school. Follow this, do this, and you'll get better. You'll do this, you'll do that. We know that doesn't work. We know it's failed, okay? So you need to wake up, get involved, and care about something. Care about politics, because it does impact your life. That's one thing I realised really, really early on. If you're not engaged, they ain't going to care about you at all. They will not care about you. If they don't think you're going to vote, they don't care about you. There's no DEI crusader coming to help you. So for the parents out there that have got young kids, young boys, if you're working class and you think, how am I going to get my kids out of this cycle? Tell them they need to start becoming more politically active and using their voices, because that's the only way governments are going to listen to you.
The white working class are probably the most ignored demographic in the UK. And this brother here is going to explain why.
You look at the education statistics now, but amongst the white working class, as opposed to the children of immigrants, Chinese and African and Asian and black kids, they're outscoring them. Why are they outscoring them? Because they are the children of immigrants, and the immigrants value education.
Well, no, yeah.
They don't look at themselves as a fixed thing. They look at themselves as potential.
Yeah, what they could be.
They could be. And we look at ourselves as, this is what I am, and don't you dare change it. That's the problem.
That's fascinating.
I'm not here to play Trauma Olympics, but we do need to speak on the fact that the white working class are literally completely ignored in society, and they're made to feel that way from birth. From inception, people from the white working class community are made to feel that they are fixed in that life. They cannot move up the social ladder, and they're already at the bottom, and this is who they are. And that is a massive problem, because that is not how society should be. It's preventing a lot of able, smart children to actually pursue careers or go into higher education, just because society perpetuates a narrative that they are white working class and they're going to remain like that from birth until death. And I've seen this from my own personal experience, like going to a state school in a predominantly area surrounded by council estates. Like, you see white children, they just think that they're dumb. They think, this is who I am. I'm going to work in the warehouse. I'm going to be a builder. I'm going to be a plumber. I'm going to do some laborer's job. And that's who I am. Like, I don't deserve working in the city, because that's for people who are posh. That's for people who go to private education and stuff like that. And this is just not a viewpoint in which they're born with. This is because It's a narrative which is perpetuated through society through different means. Through the media, when you watch TV shows, dramas, and how the white working class are portrayed as chavs, uneducated, dumb, illiterate, things of that nature. I see this in the education system. From my own personal experience, I see teachers banter with children from cancer states and be like, oh, you're just like this, you're going to remain like this. Like, you're continuing to pound that narrative, like you're going to remain poor and you're going to remain working class. This is not how society should be, because there are a lot of able, smart, intelligent, white working class people which are able to do jobs just like anyone else in the city, in tech, in law, in whatever field. And another problem here is that the white working class usually feel as if policies which are there to improve the livelihood of people from ethnic minorities are being put forward at the expense of their own demise. So I was speaking to an individual. He was white. He came from a white working class background, lived in a council estate, all of that. And literally, he spoke to me and said, listen, I don't feel comfortable with the fact that a lot of these employers are pushing like black diversity programs, all these little good policies for black people and ethnic minorities, but then white people ignored. Like, what's happening? I think there's too much for black people. I am here for inclusive policy making, which ensures that all communities from disadvantaged backgrounds actually rise up the social mobility, or have the ability to rise up the social mobility ladder. And I think the lack of conceptual understanding of the white working class community is really hindering or blinding the ability to see that this is not the fault of black people or ethnic minorities. This is actually down to society perpetuating a long history of literally downtroddening on white working class people. And that really needs to stop, because they deserve as much opportunities as the next man. But this is a showcasing how there are so many different vehicles which stops a lot of different communities from actually getting careers in finance, tech, law, and other high paying roles. And that's my hot take from what I recently watched. If you enjoyed that, please give me a follow. If you have any comments on that sort of topic area, please put it in the comment section. Otherwise, hope you have a good one.
White people did not exist on planet Earth until 1681. We learn from this history that white people were built upon the idea that British had of themselves as white, as Christian, as freeborn, as deserving of rights and privileges from which others can be denied. To this day, white people have not been defined as a matter of law to this day. This history teaches us that white is the tool by which laborers were divided. Those who shared the same living conditions, the same opportunities, now experience ourselves as more connected with Paris Hilton than with our African American neighbor. The first Congress of the United States determined 1790 that in order to become a naturalized citizen of this new republic called the United States of America, one had to be white. This was valid law in the United States until 1952. You had to be white to be a U.S. citizen. 1952.
Because white people are a very recent invention, first of all. And I say invention. And in America, for example, it's very clear in a sense. The people who came here for great complex of reasons, none of which they faced yet, which is part of their problem. And were not white before they got here. They were Irish, or English, or Polish, or Dutch, or German. They didn't become white until they got here. And they had to become white here in self-defense because I was here. And I was here for them. I was here to work for them, to keep them white, in fact. It turns out that the doctrine of white supremacy, is probably one of the grimmest events in human history, since the discovery of syphilis. Because it blinds so many people to the truth about themselves.
Click the link in the bio to get the book. We're going to talk about whiteness in a way that I haven't heard it in a lot of other places, but this is what went wrong.
Like, if you ever wanted to know what went wrong, like, this is what went wrong. Like, what? Like, you ever looked at them and, wondered how they all made these crazy decisions? This is how it happened. Okay? Like, the betrayal was against memory itself. So, it didn't start with slavery or colonization. Those were actually symptoms of a greater issue. It began when white identity was constructed by erasing rootedness. European tribes like the Irish, the Scots, the Germans, the Norse, they did have indigenous ways of living, right? Of being. Seasonal living, oral storytelling, grief rituals, communal economies. When empire logic, Rome, Catholic Church, feudalism, consolidated power in Europe, it forced those people to forget their rootedness and to replace memory with domination. The root was severed, survival through control. They didn't metabolize anything, not connection, right? Just control again. This was the first recursion. This is when they turned in on themselves, right? The first rise of this unprocessed entropy inside whiteness. It's rootless survival. It's identity by domination. It's memory replaced by mythic supremacy. And then that's how you end up with expansion without metabolization. So when Europeans came to the New World, they didn't arrive whole, right? They arrived already severed, already looping. They didn't integrate the grief of losing old Europe. They exported it. They didn't mourn their exile from memory. They externalized it on the people they colonized. Conquest wasn't just greed, it was spiritual panic. Because if you're not rooted in memory, you only feel alive by expanding your domination, by making more land, more wealth, more slaves, more laws, more mirrors, and thus their entropy, their unprocessed experiences exploded. But it was coded as civilization. So when American identity was built, it wasn't metabolized selfhood. It was built on dumping these unprocessed experiences, these entropy onto others. So indigenous people got labeled uncivilized to offload their own severed ancestral memory, right? Black people were property to offload their terror of being spiritually homeless because they felt spiritually homeless. Immigrants were treated like threats to offload their fear of being spiritually replaceable. Projection became policy. Projection became culture. Projection became destiny. America never healed from Europe. It just renamed its wounds. So every genocide, right? Every stolen plantation, every gentrified city, every new suburb, every Wall Street boom, every school built on erasure, every church built without confession is material success reinforced. It is material success reinforced spiritual entropy. It is material success reinforcing, right, spiritual unprocessed experiences for them. So the more whiteness succeeded externally, the more it hollowed out internally. So their collective brokenness rose because every reward for survival was tied to a denial of memory, right? The maw grew, the silence deepened, the performance sharpened. So here's just the facts, right? It was really a bit of a 4-stage process. Severance from ancestral rootedness, loss of metabolized memory, survival through domination, entropy weaponizes progress, projection on others, externalization of internal panic, and reinforcement through wealth. So that it looped, got hardened in the culture. So white America's original sin is not slavery. It's the refusal to mourn the first loss of rootedness. So this is all just a disgusting projection. It's really this humiliating. Like I want people to sit with that. Like, we're watching them grieve in public. All of this is grief. All of it. Rape, slavery, genocide, imperialism. Those were the fevered dreams of a people trying not to remember what it felt like to be abandoned by their own history. So every time memory tried to return, they doubled the performance instead of softening. This is why black people look so nasty to them. Because if we can build a culture, even in the midst of that, of exile, it makes all of this grief look meaningless. It has to be destroyed in that way, right? So they have no home. You ask a black person where it all starts from. You might say you might get answers like slavery in Africa. You ask a white person, you'll hear Europe. Okay, but you hear exactly the same. Africa, Europe, they're as disconnected, if not worse, and they've been materially rewarded for it through this reinforcement. So this was a crazy deep take, but this is exactly what's going on, for sure.
Anyway, so you guys have actually seen that particular clips that I actually played for you guys. Please let me know in your own opinion Are white people working class or they are not? Because I did some of my own small findings and my own research. Then before we'll have to move to that comment section, just stay hooked because a lot is actually going to be unfolded. Like I said, this video is just for educational purpose, not to bash any single person, right? So let me talk about the research I had before we'll now go to the comment section so that you people can also hear what other persons are actually saying in the comment section. Okay, so it is said here, it is not accurate to say white people were never working class. Many white immigrants, Irish, Italians, Polish, German, etc., worked in factories, mines, railroads, and farm throughout US history. They often faced poverty, discrimination, and exploitation, but their appearance was different from that of black people for a key reasons. And some of the reasons are access to whiteness. Every poor white benefits from racial privilege. They could eventually move up into better jobs, neighborhood, and acceptance in the society, while black people remain locked out because of the law and racial prejudice. Land and opportunities. Programs like the Homestay Act 1862 gives millions of accounts of free land to white settlers, while black Americans, even after slavery, were excluded. And the third one is union and job. Many early labor union excluded black workers, protecting jobs for whites only. Social mobility. White poverty was seen as temporal. Black poverty was famed as permanent and natural, reinforcing systematic barrier. So whites were working class, but they weren't trapped in that status the way black Americans were because whiteness give them a ladder board. Then I asked a question, why are black Americans being treated the way they are being treated after every single thing they have done for those white people? Black Americans have has faced harsh treatment because of systematic racism tied to slavery and its afterlives. Enslaved. Unlike European immigrants who came by choice, Africans were forced into slavery, stripped of cultural names and rights. Racial hierarchy. From the start, US society was built on the idea that whiteness was superior and blackness inferior, justifying oppression. Economic exploitation. The wealth of the US was built on slavery labor, even after slavery sharecropping and convict leasing kept black people in poverty. Law and violence. Jim Crow's law, lynching housing, home segregation, and mass incarceration reinforced inequality across generations. Cultural stigma. Stereotype portrayed black people as lazy criminals or less intelligent. Note, white people didn't experience working class struggles, but they were never permanently locked out of advancement. Whiteness gave them a safe net that black people were denied. Black people were treated the way they were because the system was built to exploit them and keep them at the bottom, ensuring wealth and privileges flow upward to whiteness. That's sad. Anyways, before I said anything, let's go to the comment section, especially from the first video I actually played for you guys, so that you people can also hear what people are saying about white people we are never working class. One of Kristen said, one of the most important video, thank you. And I liked status said, they are the stealing class. They came here and created the patient office so they can legally steal people's land and invention and identity. It as well. Helping on speaking said, that is a pretty comprehensive summary, and it's still the underlying structure goes for a greedy I never signed up for it as a kid. I question, why was I in this social system that I never feel to be part of, that I never feel to be part of inside, that I never feel to be part of, probably because inside I am a white man, I am a human. Jen said, who is this guy? Your historical knowledge mixed with truths is amazing. I love you. Don't forget the Bacchant War. This is that person commenting, Andy Sandy. Ruby said, the documentary made by Gentleman, I got his name, told this same story where they were not working class. They were the lower stock of the overseers, never oppressed but benefited from oppression. They themselves know this. Who owns the boats? No lies detected. So nothing has changed that accepts history. Yes. A lot of people are actually concurring to this anyways. But the question is, do you think that white people are actually working class? Because the truth is the system was already built in racial profile. The system was already designed that a lot of black people actually need to work for the white people to sit above there, making it look as if they are the one that is actually doing the work, but all in the name of exploiting and then turning them to slavery and getting whatsoever belongs to them. Anyways, let me know what you think. Like I said in my comment section, with the history I've been able to brought out down here to you. This video is just for educational purpose and nothing more. Every videos and clips we use in today's episode, credit belongs to the original creators of this video. And if you haven't subscribed, please do what subscribe, like this video, drop me your comments, and lastly, do not forget to share. I keep saying it in my video, I stand a chance to be corrected, so feel free to correct me in the comment section. And yes, with no further ado, I'm going to be simple, and I'll see you guys in my next one. For now, bye guys, I love you. Mwah.